Hi, it's the 5th of February, and we're here to look at the current astrology. I'm going to go straight through to the share. There's lots of exciting things, of course, that have happened overnight here and during the day over in the States, mainly to do with Trump's announcement that he would like to take over the Gaza Strip. So let's have a look at the astrology of that and see what that shares with us. I'm just about to share the actual chart with you. There we go. So, what I'm doing today is just looking at the actual transiting astrology. So, transiting astrology is the transits, the transiting planets, their relationship to each other, and the zodiac signs that they sit in. And that's what we're actually going to look at. I am reminded, though, that Trump, after all, is a Gemini, and therefore is probably more under the influence of some of this than those who aren't Geminis. You have to have a big dollop of Gemini in your chart, and then you'll start to resonate when the transits start to do this kind of thing. Okay, you have to excuse me coughing occasionally. I've just been laid up with flu and I'm getting over it, but it's on my chest. Right, now what I want, all eyes, what I want to do, all eyes go to the air element. I think this is the most interesting thing at the moment. In fact, there's a couple of headlines that I want to cover, but the air element in particular. So we do have in Aquarius, we have Ceres and the Sun, Mercury, and Pluto. Okay, now they are making a trine, well, particularly Mercury is making a trine, so 120-degree aspect to transiting Jupiter, which is sitting at 11, and in actual fact is rather making an imprint at the moment. It's burning into the collective atmosphere, the ether, if you like, because it's stationed. And when a planet stations, it kind of burns a hole in the piece of paper that is placed under a magnifying glass. If we go back to when we were young, did you ever get a magnifying glass and put it over a piece of paper and direct a sunbeam onto the paper, and of course it burns it? And that's the way I always think of these planets when they station. It's like they're staying there and concentrating and searing the paper underneath the magnifying glass. Anyway, so Jupiter is highlighted because of that stationary position in Gemini. It's actually trine to Makemake, one of the dwarf planets. Now, these dwarf planets are there because we need them in this century. We discovered them all at the beginning of this century. They're symbols which we need to make an astrology make sense during these times. And Makemake, those who followed my work know that I wrote the first seminal book on the dwarf planets. It remains a classic. And in there, we will see that Makemake, it represents, among other things, large movements of people. So population movements and also population malaise as well. So pandemics, that kind of thing. It's a large movement of people for whatever reason. Now, with the trine from there to Mercury, we've got a grand trine in air. So we've got Mercury at 13, Jupiter at 11, and Makemake at 11. Now, in the midst of all of this, Trump comes up with he wants a proposal to take over the Gaza Strip, which is currently the home of about 2 million Palestinians. I think it's heroic in terms of wow, this is new. This is thinking outside the box, and this is what air likes to do. It looks at something and goes, why are we doing all these other ways that never worked before? What we need to do is we need to do something completely different here, and it gives us another perspective. However, I think Make's presence here is talking about a population of people being moved from their homeland 2 million of them, and may be forced to relocate into a different place in the Middle East or the Eastern Mediterranean. And there's your problem, really. It's not legal to start with, and obviously there are currently certain organisations looking at this and saying it is, and I quote from Sky News at the moment, that it is ethnic cleansing. I don't suppose Trump saw it that way, but looking at the astrology, I can see how this will become a story that it can be argued on the one hand that it could be considered ethnic cleansing, whilst on the other hand, a different party might argue, well, yeah, but look, they can't go back there. It's all rubble. There is no infrastructure left. How are they going to live? These arguments and the backward and forward sudden movement and communication that is occurring around this issue is absolutely typical of air, Gemini in particular. Jupiter often, not always, but often introduces a sense of broadening horizons and often takes into account things like new horizons in terms of new countries and moving into whole new arenas. So putting it all together, it's easy to see. The Mercury, of course, talks about news and news stories, but also the suddenness with this is happening. I mean, it's just, I mean, apparently he said it before, but as far as I'm concerned, this is a one sudden movement, a sudden, oh wait, no, so typical of air. So I think it's, as far as astrology is concerned, please remember I'm not a political commentator. I am an astrologer. Okay, so we've got that in the air at the moment. And I want to bring up another headline that I have just taken off Sky News again. So please go look at Sky News in the UK if you want to see the backstories to this. So there is the news about AI, and the fear now is one of the AI grandfathers or godfathers, apparently one of the original people who sort of dreamed all this stuff up, is now ringing alarm bells because he says that the arms race involving AI has accelerated the risk of a robot takeover. We are again talking the air element, and that is because air is all about the mental and all about the unemotional. Air covers robotic and covers artificial intelligence. So I thought that was interesting. And then in other news, and maybe you didn't catch this because everybody's reading all the stuff about Donald Trump. But in other news, and I love this because, as you know, my master's degree covered ancient archaeology and actually followed the progress of astronomy and astrology going back into prehistory. And so I covered quite a lot of this in the historical and archaeological content of my master's degree. But anyway, so Mount Vesuvius erupted in 79 AD and buried Pompeii in ash, but also a nearby town called Herculaneum. And they're doing some work at the moment, the archaeologists, to dig up artifacts from the site of Herculaneum. And they have discovered some papyrus which have got the original Greek Epicurean philosophy in them. Now, this is Epicurean philosophy, I should tell you, is probably quite opposite to air. It's definitely an earth element thing. It was it was probably developed as a sort of an anti-Plato thing, because whereas Plato and those with Platonic thinking went along the avenue of thinking in terms of things were beautiful and things were taken up to the sky. There was an element of air in behind and within their philosophies. With Epicurean philosophy, it's the other way. It's very earthy, very down to earth, and it's Venusian. It's filled with the planet Venus in terms of resonance, and it's about the pleasures of everyday things. And we're talking earthly pleasures, literally. So this is an anti-thinking philosophy, whereas with Plato, you got very much the thinking philosophy, and the air. Now we've got the earth with this one. Um, for me, the what's happening here is with air, we are looking at the discovery of a type of philosophy which will no doubt be able to be expanded, and there'll be lots of work done on it in terms of philosophy, which is all the work of air. So there'll be a lot of sort of like when we get these type of things, what we get is an introduction into a certain religious or spiritual way of thinking that had gone to sleep, something we'd forgotten about. The appearance of this will bring it right up into the uppermost thoughts of people who are delighted by such things as I am. I mean, I think one of the best things to look at here, I'll just share with you again just a moment, in terms of interpreting this in astrology, has got to be, without doubt, Uranus in Taurus. So Uranus in Earth. So that's an air planet in Earth. So it's the sudden discovery, the enlightenment, the uproot, the uproar, the breaking through. So we will learn a lot of Epicurean philosophy now. It will get a big rush forward. The moon is also in Taurus. And so for me, for this to be released as news now is really, we can look at the astrology and go, oh yeah, that's because Uranus, which has also just turned direct, and the moon is going there to sort of amplify it over this day. The moon actually will leave Taurus tomorrow, but before it does, it will go over Uranus, and so it sort of amplifies the earthiness of this discovery, the earthiness of the philosophy, with Uranus bringing in the discovery. Uranus discovers things. It's just fantastic, isn't it? I love astrology. There we go. There is an interesting square going on here to Ceres. Ceres, as you know, is an aspect of the feminine, a very seriously important aspect of the feminine at the moment. And the Epicurean philosophy there is no doubt, is very feminine in nature. So I'm not so sure. Having said that, it was perpetrated and brought through in a masculine way from the masculine philosophers. So it was kind of a male-owned feminine philosophy. I don't think that the actual feminine polarity was ever thrilled with the way that that occurred. And I think perhaps that is Ceres there looking at the square is all about how there is an irritation, a pebble in the shoe, a thorn in the side. So I think that probably is where that's coming from. Okay, so that's covering that, right? And now tomorrow, when the moon gets into Gemini, I think then we will get much more of a heartfelt, emotional outpouring of Trump's suggestions in the Arab world. I think probably they're all at the moment still got their mouths open, going, what? Uh, and I think there is so much more to be said about this subject. Yeah, so we'll see where that goes. Um, and it's great that somebody is getting involved with it. I love to see that, we're working and looking outside of the box to get things sorted out. I just hope they can come to an agreement with taking in all of ancient history to do with that area, which I have lived in and spent so much time around and studied for so long. I think it has to take on board all parties. But and if any of us thinking about it, if you were told that your homeland, which has been destroyed by war, you had to leave it and you had to go somewhere else. Well, okay, in some circumstances, that has happened recently in my lifetime, the invasion of Iraq, where it displaced several thousand ancient populations that lived along the rivers of Iraq and had been there for many thousands of years. And they were actually displaced to the USA. And maybe that's what the USA is offering. Maybe it's a case of just offering the Palestinian people and saying, "Do you want to go somewhere else, or would you like to stay and see what works out?" But anyway, the dialogue has been opened, and for me, the astrology is pointing out all of that very superbly at the moment. When it comes to yourself, great time for thinking outside of the box, great time for bringing in new proposals, great time for looking at everything and getting a fresh new view with fresh new plans. Great time for this. You can't get any better. So it's an exciting time, it's an invigorating time, and it certainly is shaking the tree. And that's what air does. So if you've got something that has been intractable for an enormous amount of time, now's the time to get it out of the box, brush it over, and see if you can't look at it from a different angle and think, oh, maybe we could do this. Because that is the general air in which Trump is talking. Love it or hate it, this is the times that we should bring these things out. And if they don't work, they're not going to work. There we go. Okay, it was great talking to you. I'm sorry that I've been a bit. Anyway, I'm getting over it now. So thank you for being patient. And I'm going to see you tomorrow because I didn't manage to record yesterday. I kept coughing. Sorry about that. And in the meantime, have a great day, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon. Okay, thank you. Oh, and what am I supposed to say to you? Something about. Oh yes, don't forget my book, my new book. The easy way to learn astrology. Don't forget it is very cheap. You can get it on Amazon, and that would be brilliant. If you have already read it, would you please do me a favor? Would you go on Amazon and write a review on it? Would you mind? Because somebody has gone on there and given me a 1-star review for a technical reason, which was nothing to do with the content of the book. And it now needs a few decent reviews to drag it out of its doldrums and put it back with some nice shiny stars. I would appreciate that. Thank you. If I write one, it's not the same, is it? I appreciate if you do it. Thank you very much. Okay, bye.